Alright, so I was cleaning out the shop and I found a bunch of these white oak offcuts from the project I just finished. And usually with scraps this size, they just end up as firewood because I just know that I would never use them. But this time there's just a lot of it, so we're going to take these and turn it into a knife block. Now since all these pieces are kind of different sizes, the first thing we're going to do is rip these to 25 millimeters, or roughly about an inch, over at the table saw. And that is actually going to be the thickness of the panel that we're going to glue up later, because we're going to face glue these together like this. And we're also going to take the crosscut sled and cut these down to some random lengths. That way the pieces are staggered like this. So the length of these parts really doesn't matter. We just need to make sure the ends are nice and clean for the glue up. Yeah, let's get these strips cut, and then we're going to glue up our little edge grain butcher block. So here you see that I put a piece of MDF on top of the clamp so that the small wood strips won't fall down during the glue up. And I also put a layer of packing tape on top of the MDF to prevent the glue from sticking to it. Alright, so while we wait for the glue to dry overnight, let me show you how we're going to cut these miter joints. If I go to a left side view, you can see that we've got several different angles here. Now this bottom right angle is formed by two 47.5 degree miters. This one is two 39 degree miters. And the top one is 45 degree miters. And finally, this last one is some random 48.5121 degrees. We'll come back to this set later. We're going to take a look at these three first. So the ones with angles that are 45 degrees and higher are pretty straightforward to cut. We'll just lay the panel flat down on the table saw. We'll set the blade to those angles and we're going to make the cut. But since we can't tilt the blade less than 45 degrees, we're going to need a 10-inch jig like this one to hold the workpiece vertically. And then we're going to set this blade to the complementary angle. So in the case of our 39 degree miter here, we're going to set that blade to 51 degrees to make that cut. Now for this last set of angles here, instead of trying to get this precisely at 48.5121, I'm just going to cut this end on this top panel to 48.5 degrees. And we're not going to touch this top edge at all on this green panel here, because what we're going to do is do a dry fit of all four pieces to lay out what this final angle needs to be and where it needs to be cut. And I think that's the easiest way to do this, and it's going to give us the best results without needing to be super precise. By the way, if you guys don't have a 10-inch jig yet, be sure to check out my video on how I made this one, because it is seriously the most useful jig that I have in the shop. Sorry guys, I digress. So tomorrow what I'm going to do is take the panel out of the clamps and we're going to run it through the planer a couple times to clean up those surfaces, and then we'll get those miters cut and use the tape method to glue up the frame. So hopefully it's going to be pretty easy and straightforward to do. right, the glue up went really well, and let me tell you guys, this thing's actually really heavy. Okay, it's probably not quite as heavy as a solid knife block, but at the same time, it's also not gonna slip around really easily. In any case though, I still think it's a good idea to add some weight to this. So I'm gonna attach one of these 6x4 steel plates on the bottom, and these weigh about 12 ounces, so it is pretty hefty. But anyway, I'm gonna use my router and this flush trim bit to cut a recess on the bottom surface for these plates to sit into. And I'm gonna start by cutting a rectangular hole in this scrap piece of plywood using my jigsaw. Obviously the hole is going to be slightly larger than the plate itself. And then I'm going to take this template and I'm going to attach it to the bottom surface of the knife block using some double-sided tape. And the bearing on this bit is going to ride along the edge of that hole to cut out the recess. So yeah, let's get to it. Oops, the bearing slipped under the template and I ended up cutting this notch into the recess. But hey, you know, some people might call that a feature and actually pay extra for it. Anyway, let's start laying out and cutting the slots for these knives. I've only got these 4 and the blades on these are about 2mm thick. So my plan is to use this 1/8 inch bit over on my router table to cut these slots. And the fence is going to control the position of the slot this way. And then the stops on this fence is going to control the length of the slots as we get them cut. Now the dimensions are going to be different depending on the knives that you have, but just know that the longer we make these slots, the more the knife is going to tilt when they're inserted. So I'm just going to keep the slots relatively short, about 3 or 4mm longer than the widest part of the knife. Yeah, so let's get these cut and see how things fit. Alright, we've got the slots cut, and I didn't touch this area because I wanted to save it for some larger nuts I might get in the future. But anyway, now we just need to do a little bit of sanding, and I'm going to apply the satin water-based top coat. I really like this finish because it's easy to apply, it dries fast, and best of all, it doesn't darken the wood like most oil-based finishes do. So I think this is much better to use on light color projects like this. Oh, one more thing, I'm going to attach these rubber feet to the bottom because this guy is probably going to come in contact with water a lot, and these are much more durable than those ones that just sticks to the wood. Yeah, so let's get this thing finished up. This came out awesome, guys. I ended up adding a second steel plate on the bottom because once I've attached the feet, I didn't need the additional clearance for the screw heads. So now this thing weighs over 6 pounds despite that it's not a solid knife block. And yeah, I did leave the sides open just to show off how awesome these knives look. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments if you like this project or not. And if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one.